So we just read 1 Kings chapter 3, which is the story of Solomon having a dream. And God said to him, I've got to speak up loud so you can hear me. God said to him, ask of me whatever you want. Or it says it in this translation, what do you want? Ask and I will give it to you. So this is a classic wish story, you know. It's also a story of Solomon, the beginning of this is setting his career. This is determining how he's going to run his life, how his life's going to go. It's what's the dream for your life? Ask whatever you want. And so I just thought I'd talk about that. Ask of me whatever you want. Those three things. That's my 3 points. So first of all, ask. God comes to us and says, ask. This is an invitation to prayer. You know, God doesn't give us stuff without inviting us to participate with Him in producing it. So, ask of me and I will give you the nations for an inheritance, it says in Psalm 2. Call on me and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things. Why doesn't God show you great and mighty things without your calling? Why do you think? Because He wants us to participate in the process. It's for us. You know, He could just give us stuff, but He wants us to work out what we really want. He wants us to think about where we're going to go. What do we want God to give us? Think about how we, you know, like if you get a burden on your heart to pray for somebody, God has said to you, pray for that person. Why doesn't God just go help that person? Why does He want you to pray for them? Because He wants you to help answer your own prayers, you know, to live the prayers you're praying. We pray our lives and we live our prayers is a great saying, I reckon. And so that's, God says, ask of me. And so it's an invitation to participate with God in making our lives what they're meant to be. It's the most profound thing. So it's a bit different to that. We're just telling stories about wishing, you know. It's a bit different to that. God doesn't say, you know, you've got 3 wishes of whatever fabulous thing you want. Because the other thing we find out at the end of the story is that God isn't going to answer his ask unless it's the right thing. He says, if you had have asked this or that, I wouldn't have given it to you. But because you've asked this, I will give it to you. So it's actually a trick question. God's saying, what do you really want in life? And if he gets the question right, gets the answer right, God will give it to him. If he gets it wrong, God says, well, that's a stupid thing to ask for. It isn't like you get what you wish for. It isn't like that at all. Because God doesn't want his people to be so out of control. He wants to work with them to make sure they ask for the right thing. And so sometimes we say to God, oh God, I wish I had a better job. And God's answer might be, no, you need to learn how to do your job better, you know, or whatever it might be. Like, you know, God sometimes works with us to give us the right answer, not the answer that we first think we want. God doesn't leave it all up to us. We're not completely at sea in this, which is fantastic. So the invitation to ask. Ask. There's really 4 layers at which we sort of work out our want, our wishes for life. A lot of things in life, we don't really think about them. We just do them automatically. You know, you've got to cook tea. You've got to, you know, you look after your children. You've got to mow your lawn and keep your house tidy. Some people aren't so impressed by that, but you know, there's a lot of things are automatic. And so there's a level at which life is lived. You grow up. You know, I've often been amazed at how I see my life just following the same as every other person. You know, when the children are in kinder and they put on a play, I'm with all the other dads wanting my son to be the star of the show, you know, wanting to get the best photos, you know. I'm just being like every other father in the audience, you know. And so there's a lot of things in life are just automatic. You just go your way, you know. You get to my age and suddenly you find you've got the same disease as every other one who's 60. You've got, you know, you've got the same issues. Your children are, you know, more independent, you know. Our lives sort of follow a regular pattern. There's a lot of things about life that are you don't need to work them out. They're just straightforward. But the second level of life is, you say, if I've got to do this in life, how can I do it better? And that's the question that Western civilization has majored on answering the last 200 years. How can I do things more effectively, more efficiently? So if we're going to get from A to B, what's better than walking? I know. I'll invent the Ford Motor Company. You know? And they say, hey, we can do better than that. What about we invent helicopters? What about we invent aeroplanes? What about we fly to the moon? And so the question of how do I do it better has become a dominant question of our civilization. But there's a third question that we need to ask, and that is, what should I do? Who am I? What's my gift? What's my particular calling in this world? Who really am I? Am I really meant to be doing this? Here I am, stuck in, a manual job when I've got a brain. I'm not using it. Should I be doing something differently, or vice versa? And so we ask the question, who am I? And we explore self-realization, self-understanding, self-fulfillment. And that's an important question to ask. And Solomon's asking that question, who am I? And he realizes that he's been given this really important role. He says, I've been asked to lead God's mighty people. Who am I? I'm just a child, he says. And he says, I don't have the skills. Oh, God, help me to do my job. And so thinking about who he is and what the job is that he's got, he asks God to equip him and to strengthen him to be able to do it better. But of course there's a fourth layer. And that is, ask me whatever you want. What is worth wanting? What is worth wanting in this world? There's some things that you really want which actually aren't worth wanting. And so, ask me whatever you want. Ask me for something that's worth wanting. And this is the really deep question. You dive down and you say, what's God at work in this world? What could I do that would make this world a better place? What's God's calling for everybody? Now, Disney movies love to have stories about people who find their purpose, and often it's at level 3. Who really am I? I can't be that. I've got to be me. And so the character in the Disney story, finds their true self, and they walk away from the badness and find their true fulfillment. And often it's pretty trite, and often it's the American dream. You can be anything you want to be, which isn't actually true at all. You can't be anything you want to be. You've got to find out what you're cut out for. But there's one story that I think is a bit better. Moana? You watched that one? Moana?
No. Yes, we have.
So in that, it's the same story. A girl who's doing stuff and she doesn't like it, and she's got to find who she really is, and there's someone, I think there's a romantic thing in it and everything. But in the end, she goes back and she finds out what she's meant to be by going back. She's a Maori, I think, Maori sort of story setting. She finds out her people, her culture, her inheritance, her community, and that helps her determine what she ought to be. I think that's a really good answer. If you want to know what's worth asking for, think about your community, think about your setting, think about what you've inherited, think about your culture, think about your church, your work, the world that God's put you in. It's not about you. It's not about you finding what's good for you. It's about you finding what's good for you to do in your setting that'll make a difference and improve your world. And so this is what Solomon's got to think about. What do you want, Solomon? And if he had have asked for riches, that would only be for him. If he had have asked for power over his enemies, that'd make life easier for him, but it wouldn't really necessarily help. He asks for wisdom, that he can do his job well. And in many ways, what he asks for is quite a small dream. He says, when people come to me with a problem, they're looking for justice and safety. Give me the wisdom and understanding heart so I can hear what they want and I can give a good answer that will give them justice, safety, fair play. And it's only a small thing. He's thinking about a little narrow part of his life. When people come to me with a question, help me get the answer right. Because he's like a judge. The US is appointing a new judge at the moment. And I hope she's a fantastic judge. The one who's died was very good. But I hope the one who's being appointed will do a really good job. God bless her. But it's a bit like this wall. Solomon's asking about, when I make a brick, help me to make it good. Because how are you going to build a wall if the bricks aren't good? Every brick's got to be good. And so that's what he's saying. He's saying, help me in my little decisions in everyday life to make a good decision, to get that right, to get that brick right, and then put that into my wall. And God says, that's a very good answer, Solomon. You've done very well. You know, so it's not wrong to be ambitious, but you can be too ambitious. It's just be about you. You know, how will I get more of what I want? And so you've got to temper ambition with humility. And it's not wrong to be humble, but you can be too humble. You know, last week we talked about, at our catch-up, we talked about the verse from Ecclesiastes 7:15, which says, do not be overly good or overly wise. Why should you kill yourself? And then it says, do not be overly wicked. And, you know, and I thought, what? How can you be too good? But in the afternoon, we went to Alexandra and did the same discussion. And a lady said she used to be a masseur. And she said, I would have particular trouble with women, middle-aged women often, who were too good, because it would manifest in their bodies as undiagnosable pain, fibromyalgia. So these are people who wouldn't look after themselves. They're always sacrificing themselves for other people. They're putting themselves out for others, not taking any consideration for themselves. And it says their bodies can't take that. It comes out as pain. So you can be overly humble. And then another lady said, she's a psychologist, does counselling. She said, I have the same problem with people who come to me, often middle-aged women, who are too humble. They've misunderstood the Christian teaching on humility. They think it's all about killing yourself for others, not realising that if you don't look after yourself, you can't help other people. So there's got to be a combination of ambition and humility, but you can have too much ambition or too much humility. You've got to have the courage to reach out and look after things so that you can be the person you need to be. But you've got to have the humility so that when you reach out to help others, to help yourself, you're actually a blessing to others as well. Yeah, so humility and courage, I reckon, is a good combination. So I think Solomon did pretty well with that. But it's a great question. You know, what do you want to do with your life? And some people, we live in a world that's incredibly distracting at the moment. Yeah, you can go on the computer with an intention to do something. I've got to send an email to Max, and then you find half an hour later you've read 3 articles on, I don't know, I'm likely to read something on the use of the priesthood in the Hebrew Bible or something, which, you know, someone popped up and I thought, that looks interesting. And I'm fine, I thought, what was I here to do? Oh, I was supposed to, you know, you can waste your life. Kids especially, you can become an expert at a computer game, but what have you achieved? Nothing. You know, you can get distracted so easily by so many things. And so this question that God asked to Solomon is, what do you want, is a good question to ask yourself. What do I want to do with my life? What sort of person do I want to be? What do I want to achieve? What does God want me to do? How will my life contribute to the big picture? How can I get every brick in the wall square? And so we've got to be a little bit disciplined, don't we, to fulfill the answer. God says, I'll give you the capacity. You've got to handle it well from here on. It's up to you. And actually, as the story goes on with Solomon, we know that he didn't always handle it well. He was very wise. He wrote some great books in the Bible, but his own life became a bit of a mess. And even in this story, it starts to fall apart in this chapter. As he is too committed to looking after political alliances, and in the process he marries a whole lot of women, often for political purposes. He marries the king of Egypt's daughter, and he marries the king of Tyre's daughter. You know, that way they won't fight him. But in the end, it sort of dilutes his own commitment to the way of life that the Israelites were called to do. So God will give you what you need, but you need the discipline to live in it.